itstyrenee, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Y'all, it's been a while since y'all seen my face on this channel. I've been doing a lot of voiceovers because life just be lifing, and then I don't really be looking the best in order for me to feel like I should show my face on camera. But anyways, as you can see from the title of this video here, I am actually going to do a bit of a story time where I share my amazing experience of attending the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth Orchestra World Tour concert. I'm excited to get into everything that I've experienced, but before I do dive into everything, please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into my experience. Now, I actually do want to get into a few details before I dive into everything here. Number one, this is the first concert I have ever attended in my entire life. Being able to experience my first concert at the age of 24, I honestly thought my first concert would have been like a famous musician while they're on their big sellout tour, and I necessarily don't have like a favorite artist compared to like how I did when I was like younger, so I wasn't sure how that was gonna go about that. And when I was a teenager, I didn't have like money that I do now where I can like spend money on concert tickets and hotels and merch and all that stuff. Two, I don't travel that much, which I do plan on changing because I deserve to treat myself in that way. The last time I actually went on vacation was in 2022, and that was when I was just basically going out of town to Texas. I have a little bit of family there in Texas, so it wasn't really too much of a difference. It kind of got old really fast. So being able to basically visit a different part of the country that I've never been of before, that was really fascinating as well. And three, Final Fantasy VII Remake is my first Final Fantasy game I've ever played. And so being able to experience not only the story of Final Fantasy VII with the trilogy, and Rebirth being my favorite so far in the trilogy, is just a phenomenal experience for me. I promise that I will play the original Final Fantasy VII. I promise. I am actually going to wait until the trilogy is over with, then dabble back into the original game. Because knowing me, I already know how I am. If I play the original game, like right now, if I wanted to, I'll be like, oh, okay, well, I just won't play part 3 because I already know what's going to happen. Kind of, sort of, not really, because the trilogy is somewhat different than the original game. We know this. Anyways, let me go ahead and get into the story itself. So let's start from the beginning. When I found out there was going to be a world tour, I was incredibly excited because I always wanted to attend the Final Fantasy Distant Worlds concert. But at the time, and I still kind of feel like this now, I didn't feel like it was exactly right for me to go because I have not played all of the Final Fantasy games, and I didn't want to just attend the concert like looking confused because I did not recognize the majority of the music. But once I found out there was a tour specifically for this game, I was determined to go. It was just in the talks at the time, but nothing was official until later on. We'll get to that point. I originally asked my mom if she wanted to go with me first, or could she go with me at first, because I was not gonna travel by myself. I don't mean to be like, oh my God, I'm so small and petite, but yeah, I was not gonna take that risk considering my physical appearance, and I feel in a sense kind of look like the easy target. Anyways, whatever, that's besides the point. There were 2 shows in Dallas, Texas of August 2024 at the time, and my mom was basically like, we'll see. And when people say we'll see, that's technically like no. So I was like, okay, either that or she was going to give me a last minute response, and I could not take a risk of getting a last minute response because I assumed that the tickets would sell out in all locations because hello, it's Final Fantasy VII Rebirth Orchestra World Tour. Like, anyways, and I thought it was going to be cheaper to stay with family while I was there. So I was like, okay, Texas is like my only option. Dallas, Texas is my only option to go to this concert. Now, I do believe this tour was announced around like spring of 2024, maybe like a month or so after Rebirth was released. Fast forward to September, I did not go to the Dallas shows in August because I was just not really in the best spot financially. And going through all of that, I just felt like I would not have enough money to like not even feed myself while I was there. So there was one day in September, my sister had asked me to attend this museum event in our city. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And then all of a sudden, like this light bulb just like flickered in my head. I was like, if I go to this museum event with you, then you have to go to the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth Orchestra World Tour with me. Yeah. And surprisingly enough, she was down for it. She didn't fight me with it. She wasn't like, no, I ain't got no money or whatever, or find somebody else. At that point, her and I were looking at the remaining dates of when was the best time to go. Now, at this point, the tour was like a little more than halfway done. So our top 3 choices at the time was Houston, Boston, and Cleveland. Now, San Jose and St. Louis were also in the talks as well, but we were looking at plane tickets, and then my sister made a, thank God, financially smart suggestion to bring a third person along. So we basically brought a family friend, and the split of costs was easier between 3 people rather than 2. So after talking on the phone and talking in a group chat, we decided that Cleveland, Ohio was the best choice to attend this concert. The family friend bought all of our tickets not long after. Fast forward to October, I saved a little bit more money, and that was when I officially bought all of our tickets to this concert in Cleveland, Ohio. And it kind of just like hit me when I got the confirmation email. And at that time, it was such a surreal moment. This was something so exciting. And usually I like to just share with people like, oh my God, I'm doing this, and this. But it was just so precious to me at the time. I only told 3 people. And of course, like 3 people outside of like my household, like the people that I live with every day. I told 3 people. And it was like around October, and January 18th felt so far away at that time. I was just counting down to the days of like actually getting on a plane, and counting down the days of sitting in the theater and listening to this music live. Now, let's actually go ahead and fast forward to the day of the actual concert, which was January 18th, 2025. That's when the excitement started to kick back in. Like, oh my gosh, like I'm attending my first concert. I'm attending my first concert of something that I really am passionate about. And we got to the theater early. Now, the doors opened at 7 p.m. We got there around like 6:45, 6:40-ish. And the show started itself at 8 o'clock p.m. Now, originally, I thought that once 7 o'clock hit, we could just find our seats and I would just sit there for like an hour until the show actually started. But one of the employees there was like, hey, the lobby itself actually opens at 7:45, or the auditorium actually opens at 7:45 itself. So I was like, okay, no big deal. We can wait like 45 minutes. So all of the attendees were in the lobby, and we only had 2 options, which was to sit around and chill or wait in the merch line. And then of course there was like food and like drinks if you wanted that. I was gonna eat afterwards because I was not gonna spend a lot of money on theater food. I've been to a Broadway show and believe me, the food there is not cheap, just as it wouldn't be when you go to like a museum park. So I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and wait in this merch line because I knew exactly with what I wanted. Let me tell you something. That merch line was extremely long. That was the longest line I've ever been in waiting for merch. And if anything, I thought that there would be like 2 merch tables. So like it'll make the process go faster and it'll be easier for those who were working at the merch tables. I was in that line from 7 o'clock p.m. to 7:50-ish. And when the doors opened at 7:45, I was like, there's no point of me getting out this line. And that was because I was so close to the front at this point. I was like, I am so close. I've been waiting. This whole line was like Slitherio. Like it was like wormish looking. I was like, there's no point in me getting out. I'm going to get what I want. And I know exactly with what I wanted. I knew exactly with what I wanted when I saw other people attend this concert. And I'm going to show you what I got too. I had one thing on my mind when I went to that merch table. And it was this beautiful concert light. And hopefully it'll light up because it was kind of like, oh, there you go. It's kind of funny acting to me sometimes. This was the only thing I wanted. Now, looking at the list of merch that they were selling, a lot of the stuff was from the Square Enix site. So I wasn't really like, it wasn't really too much of a big deal. I was like, okay, if I want this other stuff, I can just go online and get it. They were selling the Cactar and the Chocobo plushes. They were selling CDs and vinyls. They were selling a pamphlet of like what songs were going to play during the concert. I did want that, but looking at the prices, I was like, oh, okay. But I mainly wanted this concert light. This was the only thing that I wanted because I wanted to have this as like a keepsake and something to look back on whenever I reflect on this tour. And you're probably wondering, Ty, how much did this cost? Was it $10? Was it $15? Was it $20? This cost me $60 damn. $60 fucking dollars. And you know what? You know what hurt the most when I bought this? It didn't come with batteries. And I was like, how come mine didn't come with batteries? And I was looking around, I saw other people who had the concert sword, the concert light. Theirs was lighting up. I was like, how come theirs was lighting up? Did they buy batteries? I didn't see batteries on the merch table. No, people was prepared. They bought batteries to buy this, install it, and turn on the light. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'll just, when I fly back home, I'll just put the batteries in it and let it see its do magic, which was a good idea that they did not put batteries in it because I just found out, well, I found out when we were going back home that you cannot bring batteries on the plane. I was like, okay, fair enough. Fair enough. That and like when I found that out, and if I had the batteries for it, you can't throw batteries in the trash. So I was like, okay, fine, convenient for me. I will say this is the best $60 damn I spent in my entire life. Anyways, let's move on with the show. Now, after I got my concert light, I immediately went to my seat. And we were sitting there for about a good 10 to 12 minutes before the show actually began. The show did not start at 8 o'clock on the dot, which, I mean, that was not a big deal. And I understand like things tend to happen before the show starts. So I was just scrolling on my phone. I was just on Twitter, and then all of a sudden the lights went down and everybody immediately like sat down in their seats and all of the attention went on stage. Now, I actually do not want to break down as far as the entire set list, only because there are a few shows left in the tour in both the States and in international. And I don't want to be the one to like spoil the whole concert for y'all, because let me tell y'all something, I spent a decent amount of money not a decent amount, a good amount of money on these things, and I would not want to have the entire set list spoiled for me. However, I will break down or point out a couple of songs that are, I feel, obvious to what will be played in this concert, as well as explaining as what goes on visually while the music is playing. We do start off with The Unknown Journey Continues as the opener, and as shown visually, you basically get like a recap of what happens throughout the game of Rebirth. So if you have played Rebirth, which I would assume you have if you're attending this concert, then like everything you're seeing visually is not too much of a surprise for you. It just kind of points out like the important stuff of the game itself, so you're not like experiencing the whole game from beginning to end. Otherwise, we will probably be there for like 30 to 40 hours on end of the concert. I will say there are countless medleys, and I don't say that in the bad way. That is because I generally do not remember how many medleys there are in this concert. It's been almost a month since I've attended this concert, and of course they do play the battle theme, which is one of the standout tracks of not only Final Fantasy VII, but maybe Final Fantasy as a whole. Now, while we do see cutscenes of the game, we also see a little bit of gameplay too, which actually took me by surprise because I did not think that they would show gameplay. But I will say that the gameplay is very clean. I think that's the right word to say it. Like the gameplay footage is basically like the same gameplay footage like you would see in trailers of video games, rather than, you know, footage from somebody like me who tends to smash buttons and hope for the best. And that is not exaggerating, by the way. Honestly, I will say that the pacing of this concert goes by very, very smooth because time goes by fast. And before I knew it, it was intermission. And we were about an hour within the concert before intermission had occurred. Now, I did want to go into the lobby and like take photos. And from my experience of seeing The Little Mermaid on Broadway last year, I thought all intermissions were like 30 minutes long because it was 30 minutes long when I went to go see The Little Mermaid. No, it was like 10 to 15 minutes. And they were like, okay, back to the show. And I was like, well, damn, I'm glad that I actually stayed in my seat, because I asked my sister if she could take photos of me. And my sister was like, maybe we should wait until like the concert is over with. I was like, okay. It wasn't too much of a big deal, but I was like, hey, as long as I get my photos, that's all that matters to me. And I was like, okay. And while I was just sitting there scrolling on my phone, my sister asked me in reference to Nanaki, she goes, what's up with that dog? I was like, that's not a dog. And she was like, well, what is that? And I was like, that's a science experiment. That's the best way I could put it without going into deep detail about everything. Because yeah, I also want to point out as well, not only they compose like the popular songs within the game, but they also compose music from the mini games. And continuing to look at the visuals again in the back, it just takes me back to late February, early March of last year when I had my first and only playthrough of Rebirth. Y'all, I've been so occupied with everything else going on in my life. I have not had the opportunity to have a second playthrough, but I will eventually have a second, third, fourth, and so forth playthrough because this game is just that good. We get to a point in the orchestra where we witness the finale of this game itself, and there were cutscenes of where we see Cloud and Aerith communicate with one another before that incident happens. And no, they don't show that on screen. They show the lead up to it, but not the actual scene itself. And while they were communicating with each other, my sister leaned over to me. Mind you, she has never touched a Final Fantasy game at all. She thinks Cloud is attractive, which, I mean, I would expect her to think that. She has referred to Cloud as her baby daddy. Yeah, I did say that. But she grew up with me when we played Kingdom Hearts as children. She fell out of it as she got older. There was nothing personal against it. It was just not really too much of a passion of hers compared to how it is with me. She leans over to me and whispers if Aerith is dead. And I just shook my head, yeah. And she immediately like goes into like a deep distress. Like she brought her hair down, like she dropped her head, and she just was not having it. And I had to rub her back to comfort her during the show. Yeah. What a great big sister I am. Now, I do want to point out that there were 2 songs that had required live vocals. I won't say what the first song is, but I will say that the second song that did require live vocals was One Wing Angel. And One Wing Angel was that song that I was looking forward to throughout the entire orchestra. And let me tell you something. I felt like I was elevated into a different realm, a different universe, a different dimension, whatever you want to call it. I was like, I knew without a doubt that they were going to play One Wing Angel. And you cannot have a Final Fantasy concert, whether it's specifically Final Fantasy VII or the entire series, without playing One Wing Angel. That was like a crime if that was not performed. Now, once once One Wing Angel came to a conclusion, I was like, okay, this is a nice way to really wrap up the show. You leave it like with a to be continued-ish kind of feel, but no, they had one more song. And that song that they played to conclude the entire orchestra itself was Aerith's theme as the credits rolled. Now, the credits that were rolling weren't the same credits that you would have seen like playing the game itself. They actually designed the credits to show everybody who was involved in the orchestra tour, from the composer to the live vocals and just everything in between. And I thought it was so unique because I've never seen anything like that. It's just like such a small detail and just giving people the support and credit that they deserve being involved in such this tour. I just thought it was so unique, and I've never seen anything like that before. And I just thought it was the best way to wrap up the entire show with Aerith's theme, because it's so soft and so bittersweet at the same time, considering what her fate was. I can say that I deeply immersed myself into the concert, that I didn't realize that the show was 2 hours long. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. If you have attended the show, please correct me if I'm wrong. But I felt like there were rumors of like how photography and videography was not allowed while the show was going on. And I did not do that. But I have seen people post on like TikTok and Twitter like video footage while the show was going on. And I just assumed that people were just sneaking their recordings. But when I was there, there were no like people saying, hey, no filming at this time, no photography at this time. But I, on the other hand, felt that it was just best for me to be in the moment. And I only took photos like while nothing was going on. And I just only took 3 photos, which was the logo of the concert, my concert light, and then me taking a picture next to like a digital poster. And usually when I'm experiencing something so special like this, I would get upset with myself because I'm like, I didn't take enough videos, I didn't take enough photos at this time. But I'm happy that I really focused on the show itself rather than being stressed out that I didn't get enough footage. The footage that I got and the photos that I got was just, more than enough for me. Meanwhile, my sister was still in deep distress about how they couldn't believe that they killed her, Shayla, aka Aerith, as we were walking out this auditorium in a huge crowd. Also, another thing that really took me by surprise with my experience is that I'm generally just surprised that I didn't bump into any of my mutuals on Twitter. Now, I'm not sitting here and saying that I have the biggest platform in like the Kingdom Hearts or the Final Fantasy community. So it wasn't like I was expecting for people to run up on me and ask for pictures as soon as I stepped foot in that theater. That was not the case at all, but I did see a lot of my mutuals meet up with their mutuals and other mutuals while they were attending this concert. They would take pictures and things of that sort. So I just thought, okay, maybe I might bump into at least like one person, maybe two. But that was not the thing for me, and that's not a big deal. That's nothing to complain about, because I know it's not the end of the world type situation for me. And I know that in the future there's going to be more Final Fantasy concerts. Hopefully they do another concert for Kingdom Hearts, because I'm definitely going to attend. And hopefully I would be able to have the opportunity to meet you guys in person and just hug and take pictures and just talk. You know, that's something that I definitely would look forward to in like future concerts of that sort. Now, I will say overall my experience at the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth Orchestra World Tour, I feel like that's a bit of a tongue twister, was absolutely astounding. And it was magical, it was breathtaking, and I am so happy that I got to have this concert as my very, very first concert in my entire life. This is really such a full circle moment for me, because when I was first introduced to 7 Remake and Final Fantasy as a whole in 2021, I generally did not think I was gonna like Final Fantasy at all. And I am so grateful that I gave it the chance, because otherwise I would have not been able to experience something so glorious and so meaningful to me. I do have intentions 100% to attend more concerts in the future as I make progression in my Final Fantasy journey. I'm playing all the games for the first time. I'm actually currently playing Final Fantasy IX for the first time, and then once I'm done with that, you guys will be able to get a video breakdown of what my personal thoughts are with that. And again, of course, if Square Enix decides to make another concert for Kingdom Hearts, I'm 100% going, no doubt. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or what's with that. But this actually does bring me to the conclusion of this lovely video here. Did you personally attend the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth Orchestra World Tour concert? Did I really have to say that all of that? I could have just said Final Fantasy VII concert. Did you cosplay? Did you buy any merch? Did you hear any of your favorite songs live? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching and tuning in, and I will see you guys in the next video soon.